everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneurs in a Game podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, sales, and I'm very honored and thrilled to have Benjamin Dennehy on to our call today. He's an engaging sales speaker and trainer who will explain that the barriers cemented within your selling process is all your parents' fault. It's actually not your fault at all. Benjamin Dennehy brings an Antipodean brutality and charm to the sales experience many have never encountered before. His no-holds-barred presentation will educate, inspire, motivate, and help you and your sales team to understand why they struggle with many of their daily sales frustrations. Benjamin, a very warm welcome to the Entrepreneurs in a Game podcast. I'm so excited to have you on because sales is such a huge part of being an entrepreneur because we have to sell our stuff. Yep. And we get caught up in this and we fall over ourselves and many entrepreneurs that I've come across will do anything they can to avoid a sales conversation. But without the sales conversation, you don't get clients. Especially high-paying clients. So I'd really like to dig in today and find out how you can shed light on our mindset around sales and make it easier for every single viewer and listener today to make it easier for them to go out and have more engaging sales conversations and sign up more high-paying clients.
Okay, let's try it. Let's see what we can do.
Excellent. Great. So we've got 30 minutes to pick your brain.
Let's go.
But let's go. First of all, tell me, how did you come to be doing what you're doing and what role did mindset play in your success?
Well, like anybody in sales, I didn't choose this. Nobody wants to be a salesman. You know, nobody when they're asked at school, what do you want to be when you grow up, sticks up their hand and says salesman because I want a life of daily rejection because it's what gets me off. Most people fall into sales. And entrepreneurs are a classic. You have a great idea, you have something you think can change the world or revolutionize something, and it's your newfound baby, and you just can't wait to get out there and share it. And then you discover really quickly you got to sell it. And you soon discover that your brand new, beautiful baby that's so adorable and lovely to you, to everyone else, it's just another bloody baby. You know? So it becomes tough. Now, you have some initial success. Don't get me wrong. Most people, when they first start selling, have initial success. But that doesn't last. It's like your first hit of a drug, I guess. Once you get the first hit, it's great, but after that, it gets less and less and less and less and less. So I'm quite upfront with people about it. So the reason why I'm in sales is, like I said, I fell into it. And I trained as a barrister, so I qualified as a barrister in New Zealand, was going to spend my life as a criminal defense lawyer. That was the plan. But I decided to do some travel before I knuckled down, and I had to get a job at some point whilst traveling. And who's hiring? Sales. So I fell into it. I figured I'm educated. I can string a sentence together. I don't dribble and I look all right in a suit. That probably qualifies me. Turns out that is all it did to qualify as a salesman. And you're in. And that's how I got into it. And I realized very quickly as I started doing sales, predominantly on the phone sales, telesales, and then appointment setting, I realized very quickly most people didn't know how to sell. But I didn't either. But I knew that everything that was going on was wrong. You know, the show up, the throw up, and the hope you did enough. So I realized it was all wrong. And it took me 5 years to qualify as a barrister. It took me 3 days to be called a sales professional. It's like, that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. And then I realized it takes 7 years to become a doctor, and then you're a junior. It took 4 years to become an accountant, then you're a junior. All of these people have to study for years, and then they're still at the bottom of their profession. Yet for some reason in sales, it's 3 days product knowledge, a new suit, a car, a CRM system. You are one. And you go out and you just act and behave like you normally would in any other situation, and it doesn't work. So I fell into it like that, and I wanted to get good at it. So I met a guy who taught me a lot of what I know, a chap called Marcus. He helped coach and mentor me. He was a brutal taskmaster. He didn't actually help me at all. He just guided me, and if I'd phone him up with a problem, he'd say, what have you done to try and fix it? And I'd say nothing, so he'd hang up. I was forced to figure it out for myself because, like with everything, the problem is in here. Once you can figure it out, you'll be successful. So I think I've waffled a bit, but yeah. Is that?
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. I love it. So how long does it take to learn to sell?
The perennial question. I get asked that all the time. How long does it take to become good at a salesman? Well, ask yourself, how long does it take to become a top QC? How long does it take to become a top surgeon? You're looking at years. You're not looking at weeks or months. And as I've alluded to, how many years did it take for a surgeon to qualify before he was actually allowed to actually operate on people? So, like any profession, it takes a lot of work. So I've spent the last 5 years, and I still consider myself to be a rookie. I'm very good at what I do, but I know I could be a lot better. And that's what drives me. So the problem with most sales training is it's a tick box exercise for companies. Yeah. We need some sales training. Why? Well, we could do better. Why? Well, I just think they need a little more confidence. Well, why'd you hire people that don't have confidence then? So it's a tick box exercise. Let's get some few trite lines, a few neat little techniques, and it should be fun. No, you can't spend 2 days at a Harvard Law School seminar and come out a Harvard educated lawyer. It takes a lot longer. So how long does it take? Depending on your aptitude, your willingness to fail, and a lot, your willingness and ability to learn from mistakes and correct your behavior, it can take as long or as little as you want it to. But for most people to get proficiently good at it, I'd say studying it and doing it consistently, probably a couple of years. But most salesmen don't do that. The average salesman, if they're honest, they don't have 5 years, they don't have 10 years or 12 years experience. They've had the same year over and over again. That is not a professional. Yeah? So yeah, years is the answer.
What have you found in your experience are the main barriers to people? I don't like to say to sell more, but to
Get out of their own way.
get out their own way and sign up clients that they really enjoy working with. What are the main barriers in their head?
Well, what they need to do is hold up a mirror and look at it, and they're looking at the big problem. The reason most people fail in sales is because of their programming from childhood. Now, it seems a bit crazy, but we are the product of programming. There's a lot of stuff written about this. You could read millions of pages written by psychiatrists about how our programming from an early age determines how we're going to behave as an adult. And there's a lot of things that we were taught as children that no one explained to us do not apply as adults. And we were given a lot of rules. And let me give you one. And one of the things I teach people is the art of not answering a question. Now, when you say that to a grown-up, they get annoyed. You can't do that. You have to answer a question. And as soon as I hear them say you have to answer a question or it's not polite to ask you a question, we go, where did you learn that? Who was it that taught you it's rude not to answer a question or it's impolite? And then you go back, well, it was my mum. Exactly. So why are you listening to a rule your mum gave to you as a child? And then they start to get it. Yeah, you're right. A grown-up doesn't have to answer a question. The problem is when you're in a sales meeting, you're in a pressured environment, you're sitting in front of a CEO, he's got the money. That's something else your mum probably taught you. Rich people make the rules. The man with the money, the man with the gold's in charge. You should be grateful. He's given up his time to meet with you. So they have a parity equality problem. They have this pressure. Now all of a sudden they're getting fired questions. Well, what do you do? Who do you work with? How do you do it? What could you do for me? And as these questions are being fired at them, their mother's whispering in their ear, well, you better answer them. And so they do. And when you start answering questions, who's controlling the conversation? The person because of these rules. Another rule, they don't prospect. They don't like to do what they know they should do. And why do they do that? Well, let's think about it. What were rules you were taught as a child that could prevent you from wanting to pick up the phone? 1, never talk to strangers. No one ever told you that rule does not apply as a grown-up. So it's what psychiatrists call scripted behavior. In the back of your head, there's always a tape saying you shouldn't talk to strangers. So when you pick up that phone and you're looking at your list of contacts, the first thing that goes through your head is you get a little knot of fear. And it's just because you're about to violate something you were told you should never do. You're about to phone a stranger. And then what was another rule mum taught you? Don't interrupt. especially busy, important people. So now you're about to phone a stranger who's a busy, important person and interrupt them. You're thinking it's going to go badly. They're going to be rude. They're going to ask horrible questions. So what you do is you look at the list and you see CEO or you see manager. You think, I'll call the manager. And that's another thing. Your mum whispers in your ear when you see CEO. She says, what are you going to say to him when you get through? Call the manager. At least he's on your level. So we phone at a level that we're consistently happy with, and often we phone too low. So we spend our time when we do prospect talking to people that can't make decisions. And then we wonder why sales take so long. We're too scared to go to the top because we're going to interrupt a busy stranger. We're scared they're going to ask us questions we can't answer, and we better answer because mum told us we have to. All of this is going on beneath the surface. No one admits it. But you ask a girl, why don't you prospect? It just makes me uncomfortable. It's rude. It's because you're scared to go against mum's rules. So I have to teach people that you've got to phone your mum up and your dad and say, Mum, Dad, I love you, but you've got to stop coming to work with me. That is a mindset. Yeah? Tell your mum and dad to stop coming to work with you. Mum, Dad, your rules don't apply to me as a grown-up. I can talk to a stranger. I can interrupt anybody. They can tell me to F off. That's their right. But I also have the right to phone them. I have the right to ask questions. I don't have to answer a question. But there's a skill in how you do that, and I won't give that away today. That's what people pay a lot of money to figure out. But these are rules. These are conditions. These are programmings that prevent people from successfully selling. Yeah, I could go on for days.
No, this is great stuff. This is really, really important stuff. So we have all this programming from our childhood, and it's deeply ingrained within us. And you don't want to give away all your secrets. I completely understand that. No. But how do we start to overcome these? Because it's all very well phoning up our parents and saying, okay, you're not coming to work with me anymore. But that's on the intellectual level. How do we really get the experiential release of this old programming so we can get out there, do more outreach?
Yeah. You pick up the phone and you do it. It's just like the overweight person that wants to lose weight. You know why you're fat. You eat too much and you don't exercise. You don't have big bones. You weren't born. You don't, all the crap that you tell yourself. The reason you're overweight is you don't exercise enough and you eat too much. And you eat for whatever psychological reason, comfort eating, something in your childhood, whatever it is, there's a program. So how do you therefore lose weight? You go to the gym, even though you don't want to be there. And you do the weights and you do the running, even though you don't want to do it. And what happens is if you stick at it, it starts to change how you think about it. You see, if you're waiting for your mindset to change, you'll be waiting until Christ returns, because it's never going to happen. What you have to do is start doing the stuff you don't want to do, no matter how uncomfortable it makes you, and eventually your attitude and behavior and mindset catches up. So when people first start, look at the gym. Gym on the 2nd of January, full. All the New Year's resolutions, absolutely full. Fast forward to the 15th of February, about half full. What happened to the other half? Why is another half still there? It's not because they just couldn't be asked doing the stuff they had to do. They still want to lose weight. They still want to look good. They just can't be bothered to do the behavior. So the simplest thing is do the behavior. I have a rule. If you don't like prospecting, then that's why you should do it. And this is it. Do the thing you fear the most and it will become your greatest asset. If you're scared to phone a managing director or CEO, only phone managing directors and CEOs. Because before long, you'll say to yourself, I can't believe I used to speak to the chumps underneath them. Yeah? So how do you do it? You got to do the behavior. The mindset will catch up, but you got to push through. Most people don't know. This is the world we live in. Most people quit or give up or look for a quicker, easier answer. That's why a 2-day sales training session is a great tick box. Doesn't change anything.
Okay, so this is interesting because you're saying that take the action first and the mindset will change.
Yes.
Whereas while I work with my clients, I say, let's change your mindset first and then the action will happen more easily. So that's okay. Let's delve more into. Okay, so people know that they need to do some outreach. They need to have a certain number of sales calls booked in order to book a certain number of clients and have a certain amount of income every month. But they're still hesitating.
Yes.
They're still procrastinating. There's that old thing: eat the frog. Get your biggest thing out of the way first thing in the morning. Comes to 3:00 in the afternoon, they still haven't picked up the phone and made any appointments. How can they overcome that hesitation, that procrastination?
Well, first they have to accept that they're a salesman. You see, most people don't want to admit they're in sales. It's dirty. They think prospecting is beneath them. It's what ambulance chasers do. It's gutter work, isn't it? No one. You ask me, what do you do for a living? I'm a business development manager. But the foot is there. Yeah, so we create all these titles to actually avoid telling people we sell for a living. So the first thing you have to acknowledge is you're in sales. There's nothing wrong with being in sales. So that's one of the reasons why they procrastinate. They don't want to do it. They don't want to admit this is what they do for a living. Yeah, because when you pick up that phone, you are a salesman. So what they need to do is acknowledge they're a salesman. Then they have to start telling themselves certain things. So the thing that I would tell myself is this: I have the right to phone anybody to talk about what I do. They have the right to tell me to sod off. Very simple. That makes that a very easy transaction. Secondly, because I believe in what I do, and because I know that if somebody has problems I can fix, and they recognize they have those problems, they should actually be bloody grateful I'm phoning them. So my mindset is when I pick up the phone, it's the, oh gosh, I hope this goes well. It's, this guy had better be bloody grateful I've taken the time out of my life to phone him, to talk to him about things I fix. Because if he has them and he recognizes it, this is probably the best call he's going to take all week, all month, maybe even all year. So my mindset is very different. The average salesman, when they're dialing, do you know what's going through the head of the average salesman as the phone's doing its dial tone? They're thinking, please don't answer. Please don't answer. They're scared. They want to look like they're doing the behavior, but they don't want to do it. So what they do is, I've done my dials, and they phone people that won't answer. They phone the talking clock. They phone whatever, just so they can be seen to be doing the behavior. But deep down, they're already self-sabotaging. Please don't answer. Please don't answer. Please don't answer. I'm sitting there thinking he better bloody answer. And if he doesn't answer, I'm going to find out where he is. Different mindset. Also, the other thing, this is very hard, particularly when you first start out. A salesman, I ask this of every company owner or every MD or CEO. I ask them this question. If you were a billionaire and you didn't need any money, you just do what you do for the sheer joy, you love what you do, you love how it helps people, and you love seeing what you do come to fruition, would you put up with half the crap your prospects put you through now? They all say no. So the only reason you're doing it is because of money, which means you now have an attachment problem. You're so attached to the outcome, you don't see what's happening right in front of your eyes. So this is it's a Buddhist mantra. What is the root of all misery? Do you know?
The stories we make up in our head.
Well, it's attachment. The root of all misery is attachment. If you're miserable, if something's upsetting you, what are you holding on to? I hate my job, then quit. But I need the money, then shut up. Yeah? So if you're miserable, it's because you're holding on to something. It's called attachment. Once you realize that you should have no attachment to the outcome, it's a lot easier. So when I pick up the phone, I'm not thinking I better get an appointment, I better get a meeting. I'm thinking, I hope I do my process well, because if I do it well, whatever happens at the end will be right. Just like a surgeon or a lawyer. Do you think the surgeon is thinking about cut 62 on cut 1? No. Is your lawyer thinking about what the jury's going to do in a week's time when the judge sends them out to make a decision? Or is he going to be focused on every question, every challenge to every bit of evidence, every step along the way? And then once it gets to the jury going out, he says, well, we've done everything we can, as best as we can, perfectly. It's now in the hands of the jury. Whatever happens, I may not like the outcome, but it's probably going to be the right one. So the mindset is, I'd love your business, but I don't need it. So you've got to tell yourself, I'm financially independent. I do not need the business. The moment you can sit there, and remember, rich people aren't arrogant. They don't have to be arrogant. So I'm not saying become arrogant and bullish and brash, as I may appear as I do interviews like this. No, not at all. What I'm saying is someone that is confident in their own skin and what they're doing, who says, look, I can help you, but unless you're willing to pay me on my terms and my fees, this ain't happening. You can't have parity. At the end of the day, the prospect is the one with the problem. You're the one with the solution. They may have the money, but I'm not attached to their money. I got enough of my own. So that enables me to do my job, which is ask the questions that make the prospect realize this guy knows more about me and my problem than I do. I'm going to give him money. It's not that hard. Selling is remarkably simple psychologically.
Yeah, I'm getting that. How do we do the best job we can on the actual sales conversation itself?
You've got to have a structure. So I wrote about this the other day. If someone was to say to me, Benjamin, can you talk me through how you make a prospecting call? I could talk you through exactly each step, not what I say, but each particular step. But then I could do it even better. Someone could say, no, do it backwards. And I could go backwards through how a conversation. So I follow, just like, why is McDonald's so successful? Because the experience and the product is exactly the same no matter where you go. They follow the same process over and over again. A good lawyer isn't because he's maybe intellectually better. He's just got really good at doing the basics over and over again. A professional sportsman, a karate player, a surgeon. What makes you a good surgeon? They don't say it's my winning personality or it's luck. It's, do you know how many times I've done this operation? I know every cut, every incision, backwards, sideways. I could do it with my eyes closed if the lawyers would let me. So it's getting a process and following it. Now, I don't care if you do spin or gap theory or whatever sales methodology you want to choose, get good at doing one. But the problem is people don't do that. They pick and choose bits. They pick the bits they like. They pick the bits that fit their personality. A surgeon can't do that. Oh, I'm only going to learn the cutting bit, not the stitching up bit. No. You've got to learn it all, and you've got to get good at doing it all, and you've got to do it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again until you can do it without thinking. That's what makes you a professional. There's no secret sauce. It's just I got really good at doing stuff that people don't like doing because it's kind of dull and boring. Process
and practice.
Yeah, most salesmen admire, they take pride in the fact that they wing it. It's a source of, why'd you win that deal? Oh, you know, not gave a great No, seriously, why'd you win? Well, they needed it. Well, that's not an answer. Why did they need it? Do you know how many times I've asked that question and the answer comes back, does it matter? They've bought it. And you go, let me ask you this. Imagine asking your surgeon or lawyer those questions. Why did you win? Or why do your patients not die? They go, does it matter? They lived, didn't they? That's all we need to know. No, because if you don't know how you got there, how can you consistently repeat it?
And improve it.
And this is what annoys me about salesmen. They're gamblers. They roll the dice. 8 out of 10 people say no, but just like a gambler, they only remember the 2 times they won. Yeah? Selling for most people is a gamble. It's roll the dice. Show up, throw up, and hope. That's what I call it. No. I want to know exactly what I'm doing at every step of the way. I want to know exactly where the prospect is. And I'm going to know at the end of this conversation, it's either a yes or a no. No think it overs. Not allowed to give me a think it over. That's prohibited in my world. If you want to give me a think it over, tell me no.
So are you saying that you always get a yes or a no at the end of every sales call?
Absolutely. I tell them.
And if they say I need to think about it, then what do you say to them?
I say, just tell me no. Do you know how hard it is to get someone to say no? Salesmen don't realize that. They're so busy trying to go for yes, they don't realize it's actually harder to get a no. So I'm working with a company right now. The MD at the end of the call said, no, I ain't doing it. Because psychologically I'd known what's happened, I sat there, I looked at my watch and said, how long is it going to be before he phones me back and realizes that his inner child made that decision and not his rational brain? He phoned back 3 days later and said, okay, we're in. And then I was able to explain to his sales guys exactly why that had happened. It wasn't luck. It wasn't a roll of the dice. I knew the moment I hung up that this guy would phone back, having realized he'd made a mistake, because we got to the right point psychologically. So that's the art of selling. Now, if he said no, I said, fine. In fact, I pushed him to no. He said, I don't want to spend that amount of money. I said, fine, just tell me no. He said, and you seem struggling. And then he eventually said, no, I'm not going to do it. I said, fine. But I knew that was an emotional reaction. But the logical brain, once the emotion had calmed down, would say, I think maybe I made the wrong decision. And he came back. It happens all the time. So selling is about control. Yeah.
How can we fall in love with sales rather than dreading it?
You've got to want to do it. You see, this is it. 85 to 90% of people in sales are there. Well, I'd say 95% of us are there by default. Very few of us chose this. And then they get stuck. And I call it, it's called a rut. And you know what a rut is? A rut is just a coffin with the ends kicked out. Yeah. So most salesmen, if you read their epitaph, it would say something like, started, born 1957, died 2003, buried 2042, So they're stuck in sales. They don't want to be there. Deep down, they're hoping something will come along to get them out of this. So they're stuck. So let me ask you this question. Could you be a professional golfer if you didn't really want to be a professional golfer?
No way.
No. That's the problem. Most people in sales aren't there because they really want to be there. They're there because they found themselves there. And I was the same. After a few years of sales, even though I qualified as a barrister, I realized, I said, unless I go back to law, I said, I have no skill set that I can take anywhere. It hits you. What can a salesman do other than more sales? And it dawned on me, I have no skill set. And I thought, and also I'm not very good. So, what was the question again?
How do you fall in love with sales?
How you fall in love with it is, yes, process. You see, once you get a process that you believe will work, no matter how difficult or challenge it is, if you believe it'll work and you get good at it, then sales becomes a doddle. So I knew that if I got good at what I now teach, that selling would be the easiest thing in the world and that I would never have to worry about money ever again, and that no matter, as long you could drop me anywhere in the English-speaking world and I could probably start working and selling, I thought, well, that is the greatest comfort that I could ever have. And so that was my drive and motivation. It wasn't making money. Money, as anyone successful knows, is the byproduct of doing something well. It is not the end game. If it was the end game, most rich people would have given up by now. Why go into work if you're worth millions? It's not the money. Yeah? So most salespeople are in it for the wrong reason. They're in it to make a living. No, I don't want to make a living. I can make a living working at McDonald's. Not there's anything wrong with that. But I'm saying the reason why most people aren't good at sales is because they just don't want to be there. I say, look in the mirror. Say, hand on heart, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? The answer is no. Then get out.
Yes. There are two types of situations here. There's the situation where people are sales professionals and they do sales day in, day out. And then there are the business owners, the entrepreneurs who want to deliver their service. But in order to deliver their service, they suddenly realize, oh, I have to become good at selling. But that's not part of what I really want to be doing. I want to be delivering my service to great clients. Yeah. So they suddenly get into this situation where they have to have these sales calls, these one-to-one sales calls, or they're prospecting, and suddenly that isn't their expertise. Their expertise is their service, providing their service.
So they have two things. They either have to learn as a basic skill, because selling is simply the art of communication. It's not a skill. That's it. All I do, I'm not even a sales trainer. I just teach people how to communicate. And once you understand the psychology of selling, how do people buy? People buy emotionally and then justify intellectually. That's it. That is the E equals MC squared of sales. People buy emotionally, justify intellectually. So all I've got to do is find out the compelling emotional reason why they want to use or have what I have. And then we have to go through the intellectual reasons as to why they should have it. You get those two things, you'll make a sale. That's not actually that complicated to do. Most people just want to go in and try and impress them with how great they are and how cool they are and how awesome they are and hope that they can wow them into buying. You may do that. You will have some success. Don't get me wrong, that will work. But it's not a predictable, consistent way of behaving. Yeah? So to fall in love with sales, as a business owner, you don't want to be a salesman. As an entrepreneur, you don't want to be a salesman. So either hire someone who can do it, but the problem is if you don't know how to sell, how on earth are you going to hire someone that knows how to sell? Because you don't even know what you're recruiting for. So you have a problem. You have to accept that if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to have to figure out, invest. If you're going to invest all this money in a product, why not invest a little bit in your ability to communicate better? That's all it is.
Yeah. And being able to sell, it can ripple into every area of your life outside of business. It helps you to become a better communicator, which improves relationships, improves friendships, improves everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, the way I got good at doing what I do is by practicing on people in social settings. Yeah, if I waited until I needed this, it would never be there. So I had to practice it with everybody all the time, everywhere. And I still do it now. I never stop practicing because just like a soldier, yeah, they don't wait until live fighting before they start to do their stuff. They're constantly drilling and training so that when they're under fire, under pressure, they react the way they're meant to. They don't have to think about it. They just know this is what I got to do. This is what I say. This is how. Same with a salesman. Under pressure. Selling is for most people pressured. Again, that pressure is all self-imposed.
It is.
Because it's not real. The person opposite me is the one with the problem. He has the money, but I'm not attached to it. So therefore, you have no power over me. Once a prospect realizes their money has no power over you, they now realize they're the one that needs you and not the other way around. That is a mindset. It's getting to that point.
Absolutely. So we turn up as an equal. You know what you have to offer is of huge value.
Yep.
And when you have a level playing field with your prospect, then suddenly things really change.
And flip the script. So when I'm in front of a prospect, I'm not here to convince you why you should use me because I know what I do works. The question is, can you convince me why I should help you? When you flip it, it changes the whole dynamic. The prospect, because at the end of the day, if someone's going to give someone a lot of money, they want the person opposite them grabbing the bull by the horns and demonstrating that they're the expert.
Yeah.
You can't do that by being a sycophant. I think that's the right word.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Wonderful. I love it. I love your energy, Benjamin. And unfortunately, we've run out of time. There's so many more questions I had written down here for you. However, thank you for the huge amount of value you've given today and for sharing so much great stuff around selling. How can our audience find out more about you and the amazing work that you do?
So I hang out on LinkedIn. That's pretty much it. No other form of social media. They're all just screaming social hissy fits. So LinkedIn still has a modicum of, sensibility to it. So you can find me on LinkedIn. UK's most hated sales trainer. It's not hard to forget. I have a website, but don't judge me on my website because I'm not a marketer. I'm a salesman and I built it myself. And I only built it to take card payments. So there's nothing fancy about it. But obviously, UK's most hated salestrainer.com. I'm also on YouTube. So I put up videos of me cold calling. People love watching me making cold calls. So I got a YouTube channel as well. Again, just put in UK's most hated sales trainer and you'll find me. So yeah, LinkedIn or YouTube or my website.
That's a very unforgettable title, UK's most hated sales trainer. Yeah. I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Benjamin, for being here. Really enjoyed our chat. And for everyone who's been watching and listening, I hope you've enjoyed it as well. Till next time, bye-bye for now.